An epic battle commences where the angels and demons combine to take on the overpowered dragon Bahamut. Despite their best efforts, the army struggles to defeat him, and then we are taken to the present day. Disgraced knight Kaiser Lidfald chases after the bounty hunter Favaro, but is bested as Favaro toys with him in a hilarious sequence. However, Favaro crashes next to some goons and accidentally ends up saving some women from getting kidnapped. Kaiser reaches the spot and confronts Favaro, but he calls him out as a bounty hunter as well and gives him the slip by triggering his horse. Later in the night, a woman named Amira arrives in front of the goons and laments her broken compass as she wishes to go to Helheim. Now, we see Favaro taking on the evil gangster Garth and overcomes his demons to trap him in a bounty seal. He takes the seal with him to a drunken god named Bacchus and his pet duck Hamsa. Favaro spends his reward money in a pub and tries to flirt with the women by saying that he knows a secret shortcut to Helheim. Amira happens to be passing by and overhears this conversation. She also bumps into Kaiser while doing so. Favaro distracts Kaiser to avoid another confrontation and escapes, but meets Amira outside, who asks him for the shortcut to Helheim. He uses this opportunity to ask for a kiss, but then Garth's brother Goss shows up and attacks him with a massive demon. Favaro struggles against it, but Amira takes her demon form and defeats it easily. Favaro collects his bounty, but passes out as Amira plants a kiss on his lips. He has a nightmare where he sees Bahamut and wakes up in the pub's attic, where he is shocked to notice that he has grown a demon's tail. Meanwhile, the chosen knight Jeanne d'Arc leads her troops in search of a missing god key and the demon who stole it. Favaro tries to cut off his tail, but it is of no use as Amira appears and says that she's cast a contract spell on him. Kaiser is brought to the pub to capture Favaro, so he sneaks out with Amira and steals Kaiser's horse, whom Amira befriends later on. Now the Orlean Knights, led by Lavely, shows up and ridicule Kaiser as his father was considered to be a traitor, thus bringing shame to his family's name. In the quest to earn some funds, Favaro uses Amira's help to defeat and capture a goat monster. He does his best to distract her as he lies about knowing the path to Helheim. During dinner, Favaro gets Amira drunk and then they go for a swim. He thinks about killing her as she's a demon, but instead he asks her why she wants to go to Helheim. Amira reveals that she's looking for her mother, and then Kaiser suddenly shows up to attack Favaro. However, Amira stops him and then the duo escapes. Later, Favaro learns that Amira is the one who had stolen the god key, so he leads the knights to her in exchange for money. They surround her and try to use enchantment, but it has no effect whatsoever. Then Kaiser's horse forcefully takes Favaro to the scene and allows the both of them to escape. The duo jumps off a bridge after a brief encounter with Lavely, so a bounty is officially put out on Amira. With the god key missing from heaven, the barrier around Bahamut starts to crumble and the angels begin to worry. Now, we see the demons Azazel, Pazazu, and Cerberus discussing their plans to catch Amira and claim the key from her. Meanwhile, Favaro and Amira visit Nebelville as Favaro needs more bounty to support his expenses. During this time, Kaiser also searches for them but faints from hunger and starvation. He wakes up later in a house where he meets Rita and her parents. Now, Amira talks about how she lost one of her wings when she managed to steal the god key by using powers that only gods and angels are supposed to possess. Then we learn that she absorbed the key's soul, thus making her the key itself. Kaiser is asked by the family to hunt down some monsters, and then he notices that Rita doesn't like her parents, so he tells her about his own troubled past. However, it doesn't affect Rita, and then Kaiser is taken to fight the monsters. To his surprise, he notices that the monsters are actually Favaro and Amira, whose appearances have been altered by a fog that Rita is commanding. She reveals herself to be a necromancer and exposes the other villagers as zombies. A brief battle follows, and then Rita is bitten by her own family. As she lies dying, Favaro explains to Kaiser that this town was wiped out 200 years ago, but Rita used her illusions to keep them alive in her fantasy. Rita eventually turns into a zombie, but Kaiser refuses to kill her, so she follows him around. Desperate to prove that he isn't a liar, Favaro asks Bacchus for help with Helheim, and he tells him to visit the port, where the duo finds a man who leads them to the ship Celephales. Once they reach, Favaro recognizes the captain as Ammon, an acquaintance of his father Barossa. Kaiser and Rita continue their search, and Kaiser reveals that he was friends with Favaro once, but he was deceived by him later on. They get on board the Dagonia ship and continue their journey while Favaro talks to Amira about Barossa. Suddenly, the Celephales are attacked by a giant crab monster, and the Dagonia is attacked by pirates. Kaiser and Rita defeated the pirates while Amira takes down the crab monster in her demon form. Now Ammon reveals that he's also a demon and he had betrayed Barossa, which eventually got him killed. Favaro is temporarily trapped, but he manages to create a distraction and gets out of it. Then the Dagonia crashes into the Celephales, and Rita's pirate zombies battle Ammon's sea assassins. Favaro fights Ammon and is taunted regarding his dead father, but he traps his opponent and throws him into the crab monster's mouth. Now, Kaiser confronts Favaro, but a giant tentacle monster named Gregor appears and kidnaps both Amira and Kaiser in the Holy Land of Abos. The Archangel Michael and his forces try to keep Bahamut in check as the barrier continues to crack. Back at the Celophalles, Rita tells Favaro to help her, and he's hesitant at first but eventually agrees. Meanwhile, Amira is tortured by Pazuzu while Azazel and Cerberus watch. Kaiser begs them to stop, but to no avail. Now Favaro and Rita convince Bacchus to take them to Azazel's ship after Favaro breaks his bounty band. Azazel mocks Kaiser's family but tricks him into attacking Favaro after learning that he has broken into his ship. Favaro finds Amira but has to face off against Kaiser and struggles to keep up. Luckily, Rita stops him and they manage to free Amira. The ship tries to pass through the portal to Cocytus but is ambushed by Jian and her troops. Now Pazuzu arrives to take back Amira, but Favaro and Kaiser work together to defeat him. That's when Azazel shows up, and Favaro seems to recognize him as the one who killed his father. Azazel tries to take Amira, but her powers activate to blast him away, and then Rita summons a zombie wyvern to help the team escape as the ship crashes. Amira is weakened from the torture she had to endure, and then the group is captured by Jian's troops. Meanwhile in Cocytus, Azazel seeks to meet Lucifer, but is sent away by Martinet to retrieve Amira. In the kingdom of Anate, the team is presented before King Charios, and then the three archangels arrive to declare that Amira is half angel and half demon. They order Charios to protect her and the team, after which they leave. Amira is upset to learn that Favaro had lied to her, and she slaps him before going to her recovery room. Jian and the army take down another demon attack, while the angels discuss Amira's importance in keeping Bahamut sealed. That's when we learn that Michael had protected Amira when she had stolen the key, as he is her guardian angel. While the other party, a mysterious man meets Amira and seems to have a matching pendant. Favaro gets into a drunken fight with Kaiser, but Rita intervenes to tell them that Amira is missing. Favaro looks for her and notices the Bahamut statue, after which he meets Jian. She tells him about how Zeus and Satan combined their powers to seal the dragon, and also states that the angels believe her to be the holy knight who will stop Bahamut when he awakens. Now Azazel attacks the kingdom as Amira bumps into Favaro and says that she's found her father. Her excitement pushes her to overeat, and the others try to take her to safety. Meanwhile, a fierce battle breaks out as the demon starts to break through the kingdom's defenses. Jian joins the battle and puts up a strong fight, so Pazuzu decides to confront her while Azazel kills the palace's guards and makes his way to Amira. Upon seeing the others, Azazel proudly claims to be the one who framed Kaiser's father. However, Favaro challenges him and tells the others to run. Azazel sends his skeletons after Amira and takes on Favaro. Back to the battle, Jian struggles at first against Pazuzu, but eventually manages to kill him. Now Azazel toys with Favaro, but then Kaiser shows up and they combine their skills to fight the demon. However, Azazel is too powerful for them, so Kaiser distracts him long enough for Jian to use her weapon to blast him away. However, Amira has gone missing again as she has a vision of Bahamut. She lets out a scream in horror, and the others rush to her. The next day, Charios decides to reward Jian for her efforts, but she asks for Kaiser and Favaro to be knighted instead. During the knighting ceremony, Amira identifies Lavely as her father, much to Favaro's surprise. Then Michael appears and gives Jian a holy sword named Precious that can even slay a god. Later, Azazel learns that the demon Beelzebub is scheming against Lucifer. He attacks the traitor but is burnt and banished in an instant. At night, Martinet tricks Charios with a vision of his mother warning him against Jian. Meanwhile, Favaro and Rita lead Amira to Lavely, who reveals that he isn't actually her father. However, he states that the angel Nicole is Amira's mother, and she was trapped by the demons when she went looking for Amira. We learned that the demons had accelerated her growth using their powers, and then Lavely states that Nicole is actually Prodisia, the demon valley. After learning that Nicole has the power to free Amira from the key, she convinces Favaro to join her as she sets out for Prodisia. At night, Charios' guard Gorin is murdered by Martinet, and Lavely finds Jian's hair at the scene of the crime. This triggers Charios as he remembers his vision, so he imprisons her. Later, Kaiser and the knights find Favaro and Amira, but suddenly our heroes are transported to an alternate dimension. Meanwhile, Martinet tries to attempt Jian to rebel against the angels, but she resists him. In the alternate dimension, Favaro manages to remove a fang, and an ancient dragon awakens to thank him for it. He says that the fang is a barb of Bahamut that was stuck for 2,000 years since he was sealed. The dragon identifies Amira as the key towards breaking Bahamut's seal, and it worries her. He offers the team to stay in this dimension if they want to save the world, but Favaro decides to change their fate after seeing Amira in distress. He opens opens up the dimension and takes the team to Perdicia. But the dragon warns him that Amira must be killed to prevent Bahamut from awakening. Now Rita learns about Jian being sentenced to burn, so she investigates the matter and runs into Martinet. She senses something odd and escapes after distracting him. The next day, the public protests Jian getting burned, and it leads to Charios ordering the knights to kill them. Jian is completely broken down to see that the gods have abandoned her, so she finally gives in to Martinet and allows him to turn her into a demon. She transforms Precious as well and flies away to attack the angels who have betrayed her. As the team progresses, they run into Martinet, who reveals that they are actually in Helheim. Meanwhile, Rita talks to Bacchus about the demon transformation spell, and then they bump into Azazel, with whom they strike a deal. Martinet is revealed to be Beelzebub's assistant and explains that he had tricked Amira into following his words. Favaro and Kaiser are trapped, and then Martinet summons Nicole, who has been weakened from years of imprisonment. That's when he reveals that Amira is actually Nicole's imitation vessel, and Beelzebub is her true parent, as all her memories are false illusions. Amira hugs Nicole, hoping to get a response. Her mother does call her by name, but vanishes after that. This triggers Amira, and she turns into the Transcendent Key. Now Favaro tries to trick Martinet, but is found out and turned into a demon. Kaiser is thrown off the rock, but manages to hang on to his life. Meanwhile, Azazel tells Bacchus and Rita everything about Beelzebub, and Rita realizes that Martinet isn't a demon. As the angels struggle to control the barrier, Jian shows up and starts killing them one by one. Kaiser is picked up by Bacchus and Rita as they make their way to Abos. They notice Jian fighting Michael but are spotted, so Bacchus and Hamza try to keep her busy. Rita gives Kaiser a pill that can undo the demon transformation, and then he convinces Azazel to help him to stop Beelzebub. Rita fires the pill at Jian, but Hamza unfortunately gets in the way. Luckily, Michael grabs the pill and gives it to Jian, but is stabbed in the process. Jian returns to her human form, but she is of no use now. Azazel fights Beelzebub while Martinet attacks Bacchus. Kaiser strikes Favaro with an arrow and takes him down, but Amira turns into her angel form and is absorbed by Bahamut. Now Lavely arrives, but much to Kaiser's surprise, he pushes him down the cliff and celebrates Bahamut's revival. Beelzebub claims victory over everyone else, but is killed by Bahamut without hesitation. As the dragon proceeds to attack everyone, Rita rescues Kaiser and reveals that Lavely was the mastermind behind this entire operation. She also mentions that his real name is Gilles de Rise, a sorcerer with a bounty on his head. Upon battling Lavely, Kaiser learns that he is actually Martinet in disguise. Now Favaro attacks Kaiser and they participate in a fierce battle. Favaro gains the advantage and chops off Kaiser's hand with the bounty band. However, this was just a ploy, as Kaiser's arrow was mixed with Rita's pill, so Favaro has become human again. The duo seals Martinet by using the bounty band, and then the team comes together to discuss their plan. Favaro says that he must kill Amira to stop Bahamut, so Bacchus orders Hamza to guide him towards Bahamut, and Kaiser joins in, hoping to save Amira. They face difficulties at first, but luckily, all the angels and demons unite to trap Bahamut long enough for the men to land on top of him. A tense sequence follows, and after some tearful hesitation, Favaro stabs the seal, and then he fails in front of Bahamut's eyes. Amira appears, and they end their relationship on good terms as she kisses him one last time before returning to Bahamut. A massive explosion follows as Bahamut is sealed away, and Hamza manages to save Kaiser, but Favaro gets caught in the recoil. Half a year later, we see that Kaiser has become the new lieutenant of the Orderly Knights, but he abandons his duties and joins Favaro, who is still alive, although now with a mechanical leg. And that's the end of the show. Like, share, and subscribe if you want the second season as well. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified whenever there's a new recap. Okay then, I'll see you later. In the Temple Arc, angels are invaded by an army of onyx soldiers who possess forbidden magic stolen from the gods. Then we see King Charios of the 17th leading his army and killing the angels. Things have gone wrong in Anate, where demons are now being treated as slaves. The rag demon interrupts a slave operation and kills a massive monster before saving his demon friends and running away. The next day, a girl named Nina Drango heads out to work in joyful fashion. Then we see a Kaiser is serving Charios as captain of the Orly Knights. Nina talks to her boss about a Bahamut painting, and he also tells her how the new king was able to restore the city after the war. Later, Kaiser and Charios watch a demon battle, and we see Azazel's friend, Mugaro, working with him undercover as one of the castle's demon servants. Nina is shown to be living with Bacchus and Hamza, who tell her about the rag demon. She decides to get his bounty for her mom and rushes out to get him. Meanwhile, the rag demon is lured into a trap and faces off against Kaiser and his troops. He is revealed to be Azazel before he runs away, and then Nina bumps into him, but she messes up and this allows him to escape. Nina meets Kaiser after that, but knocks him out accidentally, so his men chase after her. Now she she runs into Mugaro and is attacked by the troops. Nina falls from the tower, so the rag demon saves her. However, the warmth of his body triggers a transformation, and Nina transforms into a red dragon that dominates the soldiers. She even takes down the giant knights and sends the troops away before becoming human again. She wakes up the next day with Rita and her hand assistant Rocky by her side. Rita tells her about Azazel, and we learn that Nina is actually a dragon folk. Nina also lets us know that she tends to get nervous around handsome men, and it can trigger her transformation. Meanwhile, Charios is upset with Kaiser for failing to nab the rag demon, so he calls the Onyx soldiers to handle the situation. Now, Azazel meets Nina and asks her to join him, after which he tells her how 5 years ago, Charios invaded Cocytus and stole forbidden magic to kill demons and angels, thus resulting in the situation today. He also mentions that Mugaro's windpipe is crushed, and then he forces Nina to join him, but Rita interrupts and sends him off to work. Kaiser spots Azazel during a demon battle and seems to identify him this time. At night, Azazel kills more humans and Kaiser comes in. He asks him to leave as the king wants him dead, but Azazel rebukes him after showing what his victims were doing to innocent demon children. Then he says he will continue to kill as many humans as he can. However, Azazel runs into an entire army of Onyx soldiers that turn out to be too powerful for him. He is about to be unmasked, but luckily, Mugaro uses his powers to nullify the Onyx armor and save Azazel. Charios learns about this and refers to Mugaro as the Holy Child. The angel Gabriel detects Mugaro's presence and decides to send Sophiel to find him. Later, Rita treats Azazel and he remembers the time he first met Mugaro. Nina defeats a bunch of men in arm wrestling and swindles them for money. Meanwhile, Sophiel meets Bacchus and offers to allow him back inside heaven if he finds the Holy Child. Now, Nina faces off against a handsome man named Chris, so she uses a blindfold to stay focused. An intense battle follows and she manages to win, but she is overwhelmed by his charm. Chris gives her his ring for losing the battle and leaves after that. Later at the castle, Charios decides to slay the rag demon himself. Kaiser opposes him, but is told not to interrupt. At night, Hamza reveals the ring to be a royal emblem, but thinks of it as a fake. Then Nina reveals she had a teacher who taught her bounty hunting, and everyone is shocked to learn that it was Favaro. Now Kaiser arrives to meet Rita, and we learn that Rocky is his slain hand. He warns her about what might happen to Azazel, and Nina rushes off immediately. We see Charios torturing a demon to lure Azazel, and he takes the bait. He kicks off his attack and takes on multiple soldiers at the same time, but he is seemingly crushed by the giant knight. However, he rises from the rubble and unleashes his wings. He seems unstoppable at first, but then he is trapped by the forbidden magic again. Azazel is sent flying away and he crashes next to Nina and Mugaro. Nina tries to stop him, but he won't listen, so she makes him hug her and transforms into the red dragon. The dragon attacks Charios' men as the spells don't have any effect on her. However, Kaiser shows up to defend the king, so she focuses her attention on the other troops. Charios retreats and then Nina transforms into a human again. Bacchus and the others rescue the team, and Azazel suspects Nina to be similar to Bahamut. Now Kaiser is questioned by Charios regarding his relationship with the rag demon, but lets him off for now. Nina wakes up next to Azazel and reveals that she is the daughter of a dragon father and human mother. She also mentions how she transforms if a man makes her heart race, so Azazel vows to use this to his advantage. Then he decides to vanish for a bit, so he leaves Mugaro with Rita. Charios meets Gian d'Arc, who is his prisoner now, and asks her to join him, but she refuses. Then he reveals that her son is still alive, but he promises to kill him soon. Now Azazel meets some demons and instigates them to join him. He reminds them of what happened 5 years ago and promises to defeat Charios by using the red dragon. The next day, Nina takes Mugaro out to shopping, and they have a good time together. However, Nina thinks that Mugaro is a girl, so she dresses him up accordingly. They run into a demon getting tortured, so Nina stops the owner. He and his men attack her, but Mugaro stops them and frees the demons. The men run away, and the angels are alerted of Mugaro's presence. Later, Kaiser meets Rita and says that he's doubting his worth. Rita grows tired of his complaints, so she punches him into the water and rebukes him for having changed so much since the Bahamut incident. Now Sophiel meets Bacchus and orders him to follow her commands, even though he wishes to stay with the humans. She leaves, and then Nina comes with Mugaro. Bacchus immediately suspects him to be the Holy Child as Nina describes his powers. In a chat with Kaiser, Charios mentions his past as the son of a concubine. Kaiser warns him that the Bahamut incident will get repeated, but Charios remains adamant. he leaves and threatens to kill Kaiser if he interferes. Later in the night, Bacchus and Hamsa try to identify Muguro but are kicked away by Nina. However, Bacchus notices Muguro's eyes that confirm his identity. Nina is still upset with Bacchus for peeping at her, while Hamsa teases her about Chris. Then she goes shopping but runs into the demon slave owners who have now brought handsome men, thus making her heart race. Nina isn't able to fight, so Chris comes in and saves her. Nina gets nervous again but manages to invite him to her cooking fest and he agrees. Meanwhile, Azazel discusses a pincer attack with his team where they decide to corner the king and kill him with the dragon. The festival kicks off and Chris visits Nina's stall, much to her pleasant surprise. Bacchus convinces him to take Nina around and they have a wonderful time together that also involves some intimate dancing. Before leaving, Chris says that he wants to see Nina again and she runs away as her heart starts rushing. She bumps into Azazel who tells her about his plan and asks her to participate. Suddenly we see Azazel cornered by the guards with his demons defeated. 5 hours earlier, we see Kaiser warning Charios against going to the festival, but he decides to carry out the parade regardless. The procession begins and the demons get into position. Rita's zombie omelet becomes a hit with the crowd and then Nina is teased about Chris again. Meanwhile, Bacchus talks to Muguro and Sophiel arrives. However, he hides the fact that Muguro is the holy child as he has a bad feeling. Now Kaiser alerts Diaz and Alicent about the demons and they try to find them. Azazel waits for Nina, but she's busy with Muguro, so he takes her away and tells her to follow his instructions, but she doesn't listen. In desperation, Azazel hugs Nina and tries to kiss her, hoping to trigger a transformation, but it doesn't work as she seems to have fallen in love with Chris. The demons carry out their plan, but are spotted, so a battle begins between them and the knights. The demons begin to struggle, and then Azazel comes in. However, they still get cornered, so Azazel tries to save his friends, but they are killed. He's also about to be attacked, but then Muguro arrives and blocks all the Onyx soldiers by himself. Now Azazel battles Charios, but Kaiser intervenes. This leads all 3 of them to fight in an intense encounter. Kaiser eventually knocks down Azazel and then he stops Charios, after which he tells Azazel not to fight anymore. However, Muguro is trapped by Sophiel and her angels, after which they take him, Bacchus and Hamsa, to heaven. The Onyx soldiers get their powers back, so Azazel begs Nina to transform. After an intense buildup, she fails to do so and is knocked down. The team is taken as Charios' prisoners, and he decides to send Nina and Kaiser to a prison island for life. Nina rebukes Charios for his ways, but he's unaffected and asks her if she's the Red Dragon. She says no, and then she is sent to the island. Now Muguro meets Gabriel, who reminds him that his real name is El and his mother is Gian. Meanwhile, Hamsa and Bacchus are imprisoned and questioned by Sophiel as to why they rebelled. Bacchus says that El shouldn't be involved in the war, as the same thing will happen with him as had happened with Gian. However, Sophiel doesn't listen and goes away. As Azazel is tortured by the soldiers, Nina is placed in a cell next to Gian. Meanwhile, Kaiser is shocked to see Favaro in prison with him. The women get to work and Nina doesn't seem to have much of a problem with her tasks. Kaiser also fills Favaro in on everything and then he remembers his past. A flashback begins where Favaro shows off his accomplishments to the dragon women and Nina spies on him. She gets inspired and meets him later after she asks him to make her his apprentice. Favaro doesn't want to do so, but then she shows off her strength and he eventually agrees. Nina has a hard time at first, and then things get even more awkward when she runs into Favaro at the hot spring and transforms. Realizing her truth, he gives her a bounty bracelet and tells her to go find Bacchus in Anate. Favaro also reveals that he was caught by Onyx soldiers and put into prison for Charios' amusement. Now we see Diaz and Alicent venting out their frustrations to Cerberus at her establishment. Later, Gian talks to Nina and learns everything that's happened so far. She becomes intrigued with Muguro and wants to learn more after suspecting him to be her son, even though Nina maintains that he's a girl. Meanwhile, Gabriel decides to turn El into his god form, and then Sophiel reassures him that she will rescue his mother. Now Gian decides to break out of prison to see El, and Nina join her. 7 years ago, we see Gian and her soldiers saving people from a massive monster. However, it reawakens and smacks her away, after which it kills a child. Gian blames herself for this, and it affects her fighting style when the others start doubting her. She later reveals to Diaz and Kaiser that her holy powers were taken away from her due to the Bahamut incident, but she plans to continue as a knight. Charios takes the throne, and Gian asks him why he's abandoning the gods. He simply asks her to take his side, but she refuses, so she's thrown out of the castle. Gian tries to survive in difficult conditions, but she keeps praying to Michael beautiful, and one night she is miraculously blessed with her son Elle. They manage to happily live together, but one night they run into Sophia, who is being hunted by the Onyx soldiers. Jian hides her, and then she is about to be attacked, but Elle stops the soldiers, and they run away after that. Charios orders everyone to find the duo dead or alive, and then we see them entering a demon prison, desperate to save her child. Jian cuts Elle's wings and hides him in a pile of demon bodies. Then she leads the soldiers away and gets captured in the process. After hearing this story, Nina finally realizes that Elle is a boy. During lunch break, the girls run away after a brief confrontation with a guard. Then Elle is brought to Gabriel, who says that he can use his powers to become this world's savior and be reunited with his mother. He agrees and is transformed, after which he gets his voice back. Now Jian and Nina figure out their escape plan by looking at her map. Meanwhile, Rita and Rocky break into the prison and defeat the guards, after which they fall into the pit. However, they land safely, and Rita listens in on a conversation regarding a secret device. Later, Gabriel arrives and orders Jian to be returned, but Charios and the public challenge her to take her by force. Gabriel shows this to Elle and instigates him even further, much to Sophia's concern. Some of the city's people begin to rebel against the king, and it creates chaos in the kingdom. Now Nina takes on the guards while Jian tries to escape, but Charios finds her and says that she must join him if she wants to protect Elle. Nina rebels, but then it is revealed that Charios is actually Chris. Much to her disappointment, Jian refuses to yield and is taken back to her cell. Luckily, Rita and Rocky come to the rescue. The girls escape their cells, and then we see Gabriel commanding her army and telling them about how mankind turned its backs on the gods. Sophia worries for Elle, but Gabriel says they don't have a choice. Meanwhile, Nina holds off the guards while the others try to get away, and then a hilarious sequence of events lead them inside a cart that crashes into the male side of the prison. The angel ship makes its way to the human world, so Charios commences the attack. However, Elle leads the troops and negates all the Onyx soldiers with his powers. This allows the angels to arrive and defeat the enemy, as they don't have forbidden magic to help them anymore. They charge towards the castle, so Charios tells his men to prepare his secret device. Now Favaro makes Kaiser detonate his hand so that they can escape also, and then they are reunited with the women. However, the team gets caught up inside the device as it consumes tons of forbidden magic and turns into a massive orb. And that's the end of Season 2 Part 1. Like, share, and subscribe if you want to see Part 2 ASAP. Hit the bell icon so you'll know when it's up. See you soon! Gabriel identifies Charios' battle device as the legendary Dromos, which was made even before the gods existed. Sensing danger, she tries to withdraw her troops, but Elle stops her as he wants to save his mother. Meanwhile, Rita notices Charios activating Dromos with his bracelet. Elle awakens his powers to create a barrier as Dromos attacks it. However, after a little resistance, Elle's shield eventually breaks and the angel ship gets destroyed. In the middle of this, Nina falls off the Dromos, but Charios saves her. The other angels try to attack Charios, but the Onyx soldiers reawaken their powers to fight them off. Jian wakes up to witness the massacre in front of her eyes and is also attacked, but Rita and Kaiser rush to her aid. Nina wakes up next to Charios, who has now lost one of his eyes because of Dromos. Then she sees her friends in danger and decides to help them by hugging Charios, much to his amusement. This causes her to transform into the Red Dragon, and then she takes on the Onyx soldiers. She faces off against a giant and struggles at first, but upon seeing Jian, she gets motivated and rips the soldiers apart without much difficulty. It doesn't take long for her to defeat the other Onyx soldiers after that. Charios is astounded by this revelation and touches her, thus turning her back into a human. Rita rushes towards Nina and tries to take her away, but Charios summons his troops to stop them. Luckily, Kaiser causes a distraction and allows them to escape on the Hippogriff chariot. Later, Gabriel reveals to Sophia that the Dromos has the power to destroy the world, just like Bahamut. Now Rita heals the girls and goes back to the capital to check on Kaiser and Favaro. Jian wishes to go to the land of the gods in order to meet Elle, so Nina offers to take her to the Dragon Elder, who knows the way. Now Charios decides to head to Ebios after Kaiser refuses to open his mouth when he's interrogated. The girls reach Nina's hometown and she's reunited with her family. Jian is introduced to everyone and then they meet the village elder. After a hilarious introduction, she reveals how she helped the tired gods back to their homeland after the war against Bahamut. Jian asks for her help, but she falls asleep, so they decide to come back the next day. The girls relax later, and Jian hints that Michael is Elle's father. Then Nina states that the man she loves is also someone she hates. Jian encourages her to fight for her love, but then they are interrupted by the children. Jian cannot sleep as she remembers Elle, so she has a chat with Nina's mom, who reveals that she is not dragonfolk. We learn that Nina's father has sacrificed himself to save the village from Bahamut, as the women have an emotional emotional conversation where Jian finally lets out her emotions. Meanwhile, Diaz takes care of Alicent, who has become sick after drinking with Cerberus. The next day, the Elder transforms into a holy dragon and takes the girls to the land of the gods. In Casitas, Lucifer decides to hold off against the humans as his demons don't have the means to fight the forbidden magic. Then we see Azazel, who is being used as a pawn to fight demons for entertainment. As they reach the angels' territory, the holy dragon struggles with a barrier, so she throws the carriage into the land of the gods. Now Bacchus and Hamsa are told to take care of El after Sophiel bribes Bacchus with wine. Nina and Jian enjoy some fruits from the holy forest, and then they are confronted by Ridwan. That's when Jian reveals her identity, so they are taken to the main citadel. However, the place is empty and deserted due to the casualties of war. The girls are taken to a room hosting the lives of all the fallen angels, and it makes Nina question her lover. Meanwhile, Charios tries to break the seal of Ebios so that he can get to Bahamut. Later, Bacchus tries to cheer up El, but he only reacts after sensing his mother's presence. The mother and son are finally reunited in an emotional moment that even makes Nina choose them over Bacchus and Hamsa. El tells Jian about how he had managed to survive without her thanks to Azazel, and then he rebels against Sophiel by saying he is the one who will save the world, not Gabriel. He is denied the chance to return to the surface world, so he sulks in the background while Nina jokes around with Bacchus and Hamsa. As they pass out, El disguises himself as Nina and gets out of his room. Later, Nina has a nightmare regarding Charios and wakes up to notice El missing. Now, we see Alicent, who has started to doubt Kaiser's credibility in front of Diaz. Then Kaiser is taken to the battlefield where he has to face off against Azazel. Nina and the others manage to trick Ridwan into getting out of the room, and then we see El trying to find Hippogriff. The team tries to pull a sneak attack on him, but they hilariously fail and he gets away. Now Kaiser and Azazel face off in a fierce duel, but Kaiser evades him as he only has one hand to fight with. Azazel wins and is about to kill Kaiser, but then Favaro gives him a Rocky, who helps him win the duel. However, Kaiser refuses to kill Azazel, and then Favaro creates a distraction with smoke bombs, thus allowing them to escape. Meanwhile, Nina falls into the sky during her pursuit of El, so he saves her. Suddenly, Ridwan and the others confront Bacchus about his rebellion, so he summons Hippogriff and escapes with the team. Upon reaching Anate, they are reunited with Azazel and the others. Charios tells his soldiers to stop the rebels, even if it involves killing the Red Dragon. Later, Jian decides to get back El, much to Gabriel's disappointment. As Kaiser talks about the dangers of Dromos, Rita mentions that it can be stopped if they take away Charios' magic bracelet. Meanwhile, Sophiel asks Jian to stop, but instead she makes Sophiel join her in finding El. Now Nina rushes off, hoping to get some intel, and runs into Charios disguised as Chris. He mentions his mother's traumatic past, and then he asks Nina to take him to a demon slum. He behaves differently from Chris, even playing with demon children, much to Nina's surprise. Charios notices they are being watched, so he takes Nina to a spring. She questions his intentions, but he says he cannot answer her for now. Then he confesses his feelings for her, and Nina hugs him. They kiss, and this allows Nina to finally control her transformations. She turns into the Red Dragon and takes Charios on an enjoyable flight. He promises to reveal his true intentions to her the next time they meet and gives her a necklace as a present. Nina comes back to the team filled with love and excitement. Favaro suspects her to have been with Charios, but she refuses it. Azazel passes them by and meets El, but ignores him as well. Now Rita mentions a ball party happening soon, and they decide to infiltrate it. Nina wants to help, and she proves she can transform whenever she wants, but it angers Azazel as she wasn't able to do this when he needed her the most. Meanwhile, Alicent meets the leader of the Onyx soldiers, hoping to join them. In the capital, El is followed by some men, but Azazel rescues him, and then he thinks back to the time he lost his friends. El apologizes for not being able to help him back then, but he reassures him that he still cares for him. Alicent drinks with Cerberus and her women, and then we learn that he was rejected by the leader as he wasn't considered worthy. He and Diaz run into Kaiser, who's disguised as one of Cerberus's workers. He asks them for help, but Alicent refuses as he believes the Orly Knights are useless now. However, he eventually agrees after Kaiser pushes him some more. Later, an enamored Nina shouts into the sky, and then Favaro meets her. He asks her to make the right decisions regarding Charios, as he still doubts his own decision to sacrifice Amira. Meanwhile, the Onyx soldiers hire a demon to kill the Red Dragon. Gabriel finds herself lucky in a tricky situation, now that even Sophiel has deserted her. Back at the capital, Sophiel is unable to find El, as there are too many soldiers outside. She mentions the Red Dragon, and Jian identifies her as Nina. On the night of the ball, Alicent enters with Nina as his date. After after an awkward fall. She enters the palace, and then Favaro makes his way inside the palace from behind. Now we learn that Charios' arm is decaying due to the use of forbidden magic. Nina feasts on some food, and then the king makes his appearance. She walks up to Charios and invites him for a dance. To everyone's surprise, he accepts, and they engage in a beautiful display, after which they have a chat outside. Unfortunately, Charios says he can never see Nina again, and he demands her to leave. Favaro comes in and threatens to take away the bracelet, but Nina stops him, as doing so would kill her lover. She breaks down into tears, so Favaro punches Charios. His guards arrive, but Charios allows our heroes to escape. Later, Alicent, Azazel, and Elle meet Gian and Sophiel. Then, Favaro and Kaiser are captured by the Onyx soldiers, after which the demon arrives to kill Nina. He taunts her, so she transforms. But then the assassin also turns into an even bigger dragon. Gian and Sophiel asks Elle to come back, but he refuses and leaves after seeing Nina in danger. An intense battle follows, but Nina is easily defeated by the demon dragon and turns back into a human. The Onyx leader says that Charios had ordered him to kill Nina, and it breaks her heart. Favaro and Kaiser do their best to help her out, but the dragon is too powerful for them. Luckily, Elle arrives to stop the soldiers, and Azazel joins forces with Sophiel to kill the demon dragon in an impressive display of power. After they escape, Elle maintains that he has to serve a higher purpose, but Bacchus reveals he was simply a gift from Michael to Gian. Elle agrees to leave now, but only after he can bid a proper farewell to the ones he loves. He goes to meet Nina first, who struggles to deal with her rejection. However, she quickly switches her tone and acts friendly with him. Then we see Charios, who plans to open the rift, so he prepares the Dromos. Meanwhile, Elle bids an emotional farewell to Azazel. Unfortunately, as he lies crying in the cave, Alicent sneaks up on him and kills him so that he can prove himself to the Onyx soldiers. Favaro notices Elle bleeding and rushes him towards Rita. A tense sequence follows, but despite her best efforts, Elle passes away. It brings everyone to tears, especially Gian and Azazel. Favaro confirms that Alicent was the murderer, after which Gian and Sophiel leave for the Holy Land. Alicent meets the Onyx leader and asks to be rewarded, but is then shown the horrors of being an Onyx soldier, as the forbidden magic drains them of their life force. As the women meet Gabriel, Gian vows to kill Charios, so she demands the angels to join her. Sophiel blesses her with powers, and she transforms back to her previous avatar. Now Azazel meets Lucifer and demands him to wage war on Anate. However, he intends to watch from the sidelines, so Azazel challenges him, and his determination prompts Lucifer to agree. Nina is unable to deal with her trauma in a healthy manner, but then she finally breaks down after seeing the clothes she got for Elle. Later, Favaro meets her, and then she promises to stop Charios from killing more of her loved ones. As they prepare for their mission, Gian announces her war on Charios. Our heroes go to Ebios, while Charios and his men power up Dromos in order to free Bahamut. Gian motivates her troops as the people of Anate evacuate. Kaiser tries to convince her not to fight, but it's of no use. Now, an intense battle breaks out between the angels and the troops. Later, Nina and Favaro infiltrate Charios' ship, and Nina fiercely takes down the Onyx soldiers before confronting him. They battle, and Nina wins easily, but is unable to kill him. Favaro wants to know the main plan, and then we learn that Charios actually wants to kill Bahamut using Dromos, as he and his team had found Martinet's book on how to get it done. Charios declares that he is going to sacrifice himself to save the world, after Favaro figures out that he never intended to kill Nina. Our heroes make a quick escape now, as the overpowered dragon finally awakens. Gian takes over the Anate palace, and then she spots Lucifer with his demon ship. Azazel joins the battle, while Gian takes down an army of Onyx soldiers all by herself. Kaiser and Diaz stop some knights, and then Diaz chases after Alicent, who gets trapped in some rubble. Diaz confronts him for his treachery, and he tries to trick him, but Diaz stops the knife. Enraged by his action, Diaz chases after him, but Alicent is killed by a demon child before he is caught. Meanwhile, Gian and Azazel work together and use all their powers to defeat the enemy. As Charios returns, they go to confront him, but the surviving Onyx soldiers arrive to help him. Rita summons an entire zombie army to help her, and Kaiser reaches the ship. An intense battle follows, but the Onyx soldiers run out of life force and die in the middle of the fight. Charios is cornered and about to be killed, but Kaiser reaches the scene and sacrifices himself to save the king. That's when Bahamut arrives and unleashes his powers. The hippogriff carriage crashes, but our heroes manage to survive. Nina remembers the time when her dad sacrificed himself, and then Favaro tells her about what he did 10 years ago with Amira. Nina decides not to make the same mistake as he did and transforms before flying flying to the ship. Charios tells Gian and Azazel that they can do whatever they want with him if he survives killing Bahamut. The legendary dragon attacks Anate, but Lucifer's demons and Gabriel's angels unite to create a barrier. Now Charios activates Dromos and suddenly Nina joins in, saying that she will also go down with him. Her powers allow Dromos to turn into a dragon cannon, and it fires a deadly beam that overpowers Bahamut and finally destroys him. Nina's soul meets Amira, who gives her a message before sending her back to the surface world. Everyone celebrates the death of Bahamut and begins restoring the town. However, we learn that Charios has lost his vision and Nina has lost her voice. Later that night, Sophia and Ridwan dine with our heroes, after which Favaro decides to head off on his own journey. Before he leaves, Nina tells him that she met Amira, who asked her to give him her wishes. Nina and Charios are finally together despite their hindrances, and they engage in a beautiful dance. However, Favaro realizes that Bahamut is still alive, and then we see Kaiser as a zombie, having been revived by Rita. And that's the end of season 2. Like, share, and subscribe if you want me to cover more shows like this one. Hit the bell icon too, so that you can be notified whenever I upload something new. See you later!